Can't even sing in peace. Can't even sing in peace.
That's alright, they can't hear you. So.
No, I can now. Sounds back up. I should be on.
That's a firm negative.
No, it's not.
I've got your stream on me on max sound.
Yeah, because I've already just turned it on. There's a delay. There's a stream delay. Stream delay. Stream delay.
Okay, yeah.
See?
Turns up.
Abscess. Hola. Okay, I got a bunch of stuff to go over once we start. There we go, let's retweet that fun stuff.
And they've messaged it in game as well.
I know, right? It's all so cool, man. And I'm right in front of a Cadre Guardian, or a Guardian at Fogan's. I'm definitely starting to gain my dad weight. Definitely starting to gain my dad weight. That stuff is not coming up anytime soon. I'm gonna give a couple of minutes for people to start getting into chat and stuff before following the announcement, before I even bother doing anything. Gonna mess around grinding some Fogans and then, hey Brennan, I'm gonna start properly going into some stuff. Have a look at Sorc, all the fun stuff that Sorc now has. Someday Striker. Hello, hello, hello everyone. Tons of people. So I do have to apologise a little bit if I'm a bit slow tonight. It's 2 o'clock in the morning in the UK. Yeah, let's have a look. So I'll get somewhere relatively safe, and then we'll have a look at some stuff, guys. Lauren, do you want to come Battle Arena? I think I'm on Battle 2. Have a look on the stream.
Battle 2 or Battle 1?
Battle 2, Battle 1's locked. You get rid of the controls as you progress through the game, as your character levels up, and as you've played it for a certain length of time, they tend to vanish off the right hand side of the screen. It's a little bit of a pain having those controls up early on.
Loading into Battle 2.
Sure did. Music down a bit. I wish pubs were 24/7. I wish pubs were 24/7. Okay guys, so we might as well get started. We'll have a look through my gear, we'll have a look over the Sorc class as a whole. I'll be throwing up the coupon code a little bit later as well. So those of you that are new here and haven't seen any of my videos, Already in my content, I play Sorc, and I have played Sorc across all 3 platforms now. Started on PC at launch, then switched over to Xbox, and again I've been playing that up until the launch of PS4. Across all 3 platforms I've always been in some of the bigger guilds, siege guilds, PvP, Node Wars, pretty much everything you can imagine in the game. I've only just really started touching on life skilling though, so it has been a little bit of a strange twist to start doing life skilling, and on console it seems a little bit lackluster at the minute, but things are definitely changing. So the Sorc class as a whole, guys, if you don't already know this, the Sorc class is a phenomenal duelist, hands down one of the best 1v1 classes in the game. It pretty much has the toolkit to beat any class in the game. Although there are some unfavourable matchups, there are also some incredibly favourable matchups. The beauty of Sorc is that it's a completely fluid class. There's no sort of rigid locked in combos. There are a lot of things that you can do with the Sorc class that you can't necessarily do with other classes. The fact that you're not locked into any rigid combos means that you're perfectly fine to sort of act on the fly. You can pretty much just combo 100 to 0 people in so many different ways, it's crazy. So if you've been playing since the launch on PS4, or if you've only played the pre-awakened state, you'll be familiar with a lot of the main skills for Sorc. So in terms of once you've got awakening, the kind of skills that you're going to look at, you're pretty much just going to stick to your bread and butter. So you want your Dream of Doom maxed, and you want your Imminent Doom for your instant CC. You still want to use Midnight Stinger, and Midnight Stinger is going to be one of your transitions back from your awakening as well. You're still going to want to use Shadow Eruption, and you're going to want to keep all of your mobility from Nightcrow, Storming Crow. In terms of sort of the pre-awakening side of the class, nothing changes. You use the pre-awakening for all of your mobility, you set up your CC, and then you switch to your awakened state for damage. I'm going to get attacked by a bunch of people while I'm looking through skills. Jeremiah, it's been some restless nights. We'll go over the offhand stuff with Sorc in a little bit as well. Definitely have a look at some of the gear. Any questions you've got to ask, go ahead, ask. As you can see, we've got some PA mods helping out.
What do you this?
Yeah, wait, so I'm just looking for it. Wow, so So I've got a couple of people that have turned up as well that we're going to have some fights with, just to show pretty much what the class can do. Then we'll go over some of the key skills, things that I've been using, different things like that. Right, ready when you are, it.
Yeah.
1 second, actually, let me drop this rage. Nah, nice TP.
Sorry.
Nice TP. It just reset me. So in terms of your gear, you pretty much want to just focus on your leveling, and your gear is going to come naturally through your quest line. If you're doing the main quest line, you'll get a decent AP, decent DP from there. And then once you get to your awakening at level 56, that's when you can start thinking about what you want to do with your gear, where you want to transition to. Pieces like the Grunil pieces are going to be a staple. They're going to stick with you for a while. Once you've got that and you've managed to pick up your Asula accessories, you're pretty much set. Then you can start thinking about your boss gear, things like your Zarka, your Kutumov hand, and then your Red Nose or Dimtree armor, Beg's gloves, things like that. So, I mean, to start with, I'd definitely just focus on getting the levels, get to level 56, and then get your Awakened out the way, and then start thinking about enhancing gear. Right, let's go.
Cool.
Oh man, as if that happened. I keep flicking the menu open. That's fine. I keep flicking that menu open.
Yeah, fucking I just ripped my mana and just forgot how to drain.
No, yeah, let's go again.
Yeah, a second.
It's probably a little bit easier to just show what the Sorc can do and then have a look at some of the skills. Right, ready?
Yeah, okay.
Go.
Oh, nice.
Oh, which damage OP? We'll put put the Kuma away. We'll bring out the Helric. Bring out some accuracy instead. Let's go.
Yeah, cool. Oh, I jumped. Put my weapon away again.
Good fight.
Nice.
Good fight. Okay, let's have a couple of looks at some stuff. I always run into issues with not seeing people and not seeing skills. An SSD massively helps. Massively helps. Okay, so skill wise for Awakening, let's have a look at all skills. So once you get to level 56, if you haven't already got there, if you have already used the skill reset, then big whoops, but you are going to get a skill reset. It's Armstrong Skill Guide. It's going to let you reset your skills after level 56. If you are in the process of leveling, you can pretty much reset your skills just before you hit level 56. If you do that, then you're not going to need to use the skill reset. But ultimately, you want to have as many skill points as you can at the point you hit level 56, and then from there you're going to be able to start fleshing out the build that you want to go with. Now, in terms of the skills that you're looking for, there aren't really any bad skills in Awakening. There are some priorities. So, for example, we've got things like Violation, we've got Blade of Darkness, you've also got the Nightcrow Flow, and then you've got Turn Back Slash. Those are pretty much your bread and butters. Although everything else here is decent. I mean, there is no bad skill in the Awakening with the exception of... where are we? Things like Vile Plan. Vile Plan is very situational. It doesn't have a real kind of flow in the game at the minute. It just doesn't benefit the class overall. It's not something that I personally play with. It's not something I'm very comfortable playing with. I don't think that Sorc should be in a defensive stance for very long. And because it chains off your block, it's really not something that you're going to want to go with too much. Caution's Nightmare. Caution's Nightmare is pretty much just a super armor skill that you're going to use in Node Wars and Sieges. It's really not great. It's not the greatest skill, so you pretty much want to pick other things up before you even bother picking this up. You've got Flow Rushing Crow, which is something that's up for contention by a lot of people. I used to play with this a lot. I don't play with it anymore. But essentially, what it does is it adds a frontal CC every time that you hit Rushing Crow. It will automatically pull out your scythe. It does share the same cooldown as Rushing Crow, so it is a case of you either take Flow or you don't. Personally, it's not something that I'm a big fan of taking anymore, so I've completely dropped that out. So everything else in the Awakening tree you can max out first. You can ignore things like Vile Plan, Flow Rushing Crow, and Caution's Nightmare unless you really want to play with it. Once you've got those skills maxed out, you're going to want to pick up things from your pre-Awakened tree that you would have had normally anyway. So you've got things like you're maxing your Midnight Stinger and picking up Guilty Conscience and Eruption of Guilt. You've got Absolute Midnight Stinger there as well. Some people don't pick up Ultimate, you don't have to. I find that if I pick up Ultimate and I use it to try and cancel Dream of Doom, it often gets in the way, so it's not something that I'm a big fan of using either. But Absolute Midnight Stinger, definitely. Then you've got things like your Rushing Crow, your Absolute Rushing Crow. Although it's not massive, it's something that you can pick up once you do have the skill points later on. It's definitely something that has a lot of use though in the game, especially as Sorc. Your shards play a big part of Sorc gameplay. You've got your Shard Explosion, which is a huge damage nuke anyway, although it's not used as much post-Awakening. You still need to get things like Shards of Darkness maxed so that you can get your AP buff. You can also regen your mana, and it's another way of making sure that you're able to build up the higher level of shards. Claws of Darkness, you're not going to be using this much, so just taking it to level 2 so that you can then pick up Dark Flame, Ultimate Dark Flame, Absolute Dark Flame. You're going to want to pick up all of these. They're skills that you're still going to use even once you go through the Awakening process. Once you've got your Awakened tree, you are still going to use your pre-Awakened a lot. There is also a very good kit combo that revolves around Scattering Shadow, and it's a combo that you're going to want to learn to master, and if you can master this combo in 1v1, you're really going to excel, especially once you've landed the CC and managed to follow up. One thing I would say is that you're going to want to leave out things like your passives until you've got all of your active skills. You really don't need things like Dark Armor, Dark Maneuver, or Infinite Mastery until you've maxed other things. Having Absolute Dream of Doom, Imminent Doom, having Absolute Shadow Eruption are all massive damage boosts that you're just not going to get from your passives. Overall, in terms of what you're looking for as a build, it really does just come down to maxing out those Awakening skills, then starting to pick up your mobility and your CC from your pre-Awakened toolkit, and then from there you just flesh it out as and when you've got the skill points to do so. At around the 1000 skill point mark is where you're going to have a pretty solid PvP build. Anything before that and you're going to miss out on something vital, and you're going to struggle with a couple of things. Okay, so we'll go over a couple of the combos as well. It's probably easier. Alorian, come up to the target dummies with me.
1 second.
How are you doing? So go over some of the key things for Sorc. Sorc gameplay is really
Target on me, target on me, target on me.
so Sorc gameplay is really sort of off the cuff. It's really fly. You need to be able to transition and understand what skills do what. It really does come down to learning the class as much as you can. We'll go over some of the transitions and some of the combos. And wow, seriously, in terms of AP versus DP on Sorc, AP is king. AP and accuracy. Your DP is pretty irrelevant because what you'll find is as soon as you get CC'd, you're gonna die. You need to, you need to make sure that you're able to finish fights. So just quickly for people that aren't 100% aware of this, we're going to go over the transitions from Awakening to Pre-Awaken and from Pre-Awaken to Awaken. So the easiest transition is just pressing your Y to pull out your scythe, or pressing, oh sorry, it's not Y, is it? We're on PlayStation. It's triangle. So triangle pulls out your scythe, put your scythe away. The problem with this is that your animation locked while you're doing it, so it holds you in place and it slows you down. It's the slowest way of transitioning, so you want to avoid doing this as much as you can unless you animation cancel it. So the way that you can animation cancel your switch is literally just by moving side to side, it will immediately cast. So if you use either left or right and R1, it'll do an auto attack and you can switch immediately. It does do the damage at the same time. It's not the best way of switching, but it is on clutch a lot better than just using your standard swap. There are ways to automatically switch as well. So Rushing Crow, if you've got the flow from the Awakening, will switch you straight into Scythe. And once you're in Awakening, if you Midnight Stinger, it'll switch you back into Amulet. And getting familiar with those switches is going to be the key to being able to switch backwards and forwards between Awakening and Pre-Awakening and finish combos off. A lot of Sorc gameplay revolves around the transition, so a lot of your time is going to be spent switching between different stances. So Lauren's just going to stand there and let me combo him and show you an example of sort of a pre-awaken to awaken combo. No, because that's not going to work here because we're in a safe zone.
A Lorian.
Oh yeah, I'm so used to calling you a Lorian now. Okay. So pre-awaken to awaken combo. Let's see if we can get this to actually work. Your pet's hitting me, that's so irritating.
Let me try and get rid of that shit.
I'm just gonna kill your pet. Mildly annoying.
Yeah, I can't get rid of it. I can't actually get rid of it.
It's fine. I'll get away from you and I'll do it. Okay, so anyway, pre-awaken to awaken combo. Wow. Ah, that pet's annoying. So show it on the target dummies because it'll be easy to show as well. I've already done a Sorc combo guide. I will be doing a revamp on them as well. So like I was saying, a lot of it is transitioning from Scythe into Awakening. From Scythe into Amulet and from Amulet back into Awakening. So things like Midnight Stinger into Scattering Shadow, Shadow Eruption. All of those skills combined just show you or give you an example of what's considered a simple Sorc combo. Compared to other classes, it's a lot more in depth than you'd expect it to be. Yeah, the performance on console, guys, it's not going to be something that's easy to sort. Consoles were never made to run this kind of game to the same kind of performance that PC ran it, so it is taking a lot of time and effort from the PA guys to get this working, and it has come such a huge way since the initial launch on Xbox as well. Optimization side of the game's come a long way since it started. We're definitely on track for the game's performance to just improve massively. So one of your pretty much bread and butter combos is literally you can get away with holding left trigger, hold R1, circle, drop for Zarka, Kutum from CM, everything else from CM as well. So yeah, we'll go over any combos that anybody's got any questions about, or any specific combos that you want me to go over. I'm more than happy to try and slow it down and show it for you. It's a little bit hard to slow it down in terms of on stream though. On my videos I have the luxury of being able to properly slow things down and sort of work it back. Now in terms of sort of the PvE side of things, you don't really need to worry about combos that much until you get to places like Histria. For the vast majority of grinding, you're pretty much just going to Dream of Doom. You're going to be sat with Violation, Turn Back Slash, and you're going to use Shadow, well you probably won't even use Shadow Eruption, but you'll use Bloody Calamity to regen health. You'll use Violation for the most part, and you'll Dream of Doom with the skill add-on that regens MP for every target hit. And that's going to keep you at 100 MP all the time. Keep your crit buff up with Midnight Stinger. And the class pretty much just walks through everything with Violation. The only problem being that you tend to run out of a lot of stamina quickly if you just use Violation. Which is why you want to be switching back to Pre-Awakening and using things like Dark Flame, Midnight Stinger, Dream of Doom, Bloody Calamity, like I said, to keep your health up as well. A lot of what you did pre-awakening you'll continue to do after awakening. The only difference being is Violation, once packs of mobs are wound tightly or grouped up, you can just pretty much switch out Violation into Turn Back Slash and you're pretty much done. Most mobs will die to that, depending on what your gear is though. So with the current state of the game in terms of offhands, I would say that Helric's going to be your go-to 100%. You're going to need accuracy. So in terms of bosses, it's not necessarily the combos that you want to do. So when it comes to world bosses, there's a couple of things that you want to make sure that you're prepped in advance. So you want 100% rage, 100% black spirit rage. So that bar up there underneath the mana bar, you want that to be 100%. And you want to have on your ring menu the skill Rage Absorption common. This is going to give you an insane attack speed and AP buff. You're going to want that to start the fight. You're going to want to make sure that every time that you hit 30 shards, you're popping your AP buff with L1. Other than that, you want to keep Midnight Stinger up for your crit buff. And you want to transition between using Violation, Turnback Slash, and using Dark Flame and Ultimate Dark Flame. If your AP buff's up and you hit 30 shards, you can throw out Shard Explosion. It's really that simple. There's not a lot to it in terms of the sort of combos that you do in PvE, especially not on world bosses. It's really straightforward and easy to do. So bread and butter for PvP, there's not a lot of scythe only combinations. So I mean, one of the main PvP, or one of the main openers for PvP, if you're playing aggressive, is to Shadow Leap into Midnight Stinger. It lets you close the gap into a Stiffen and puts you straight into Amulet. The beauty of that is that Midnight Stinger will allow you to go straight into your Shadow Eruption as well. And because if you just hold the circle button, you'll hit your low kick first, and it'll cancel the Shadow Eruption immediately. So it really is just a case of, that's one of the more aggressive. The only problem with this is it's completely unprotected. There's no protection on this, so if somebody sees it coming, they're just going to CC. Nine times out of 10 when it comes to PvP on the Sorc, a lot of it is what's referred to as the neutral game. So it's where you're posturing for position. You stay away, or as far away as you physically can, from everybody that you're trying to fight. And then from there you're looking at landing CC, so you're looking at trying to get your Dream of Doom off as quickly as you possibly can. So whenever you've got imminent Doom off cooldown, you can instant cast it. Now if you Nightcrow, you can also speed up the cast so that you get rid of the animation and make it completely instant. It makes it a lot more unpredictable, it makes it a lot easier to hit. If you've not got imminent Doom up, then you can't get rid of it, so you're pretty much just stuck there hard casting this stuff. If you've got the flow Rushing Crow, and that's going to allow you to Rushing Crow forward and switch into your scythe, you can use that to fish for CC forwards as well. But again, it's unprotected, it's very unsafe, and it's very easy to see coming. So in terms of my sort of bread and butter and the things that I tend to do is look to land the Dream of Doom. As soon as you've landed the Dream of Doom, you can do things like Rush Crow forwards and then Midnight Stinger to close the gap. As long as they're on the floor, the Midnight Stinger won't apply any CC. But what it will do is it'll allow you to Midnight Stinger straight away into Scattering Shadow, Shadow Eruption. All of that is really simple, really easy to pull off. It might look like it's a lot more than it is, but it's essentially holding down L2, pressing R1, followed by holding circle. And all of those skills are animation cancels. So literally what you're looking at is 9 times out of 10, I fish for a CC with Dream of Doom. Like I said, Rushing Crow in, Midnight Stinger, Scattering Shadow, Shadow Eruption. Now, once you've hit Shadow Eruption, if you press triangle, it will immediately switch to your scythe and put you in your scythe stance.
Now, once you're in Scythe, you've got a guaranteed down smash. So providing that you've got shards in the top left, I've got 30 at the minute, you can drop Blade of Darkness. If you detonate Blade of Darkness, it will do a down smash. It'll do a down smash because of the flow. So that flow Cry of Darkness will do a down smash. What that's going to do is extend the knockdown on the target and allow you to pump out a whole lot more damage. Now again, it's quite hard to tell this. It's quite hard to show this at full speed. But if you Shadow Eruption into your Scythe swap, you can immediately drop Blade of Darkness as well, without any animation. That allows you to then blow that up straight away. So I can try and show you what the combo looks like 9 times out of 10 when I'm fighting somebody, if I actually manage to do it. In an ideal world, this is one of the combos that you want to kind of get used to doing. A lot of the skills, you might not have even seen the Shadow Eruption because it was instacast, it was animation cancelled, but the Shadow Eruption did pop off. Shadow Eruption would have done full damage and caused the knockdown as well. So, in terms of what you consider bread and butter for Sorc, it's not as simple as just press this button, or this button. The combos in Sorc can be incredibly extended. They're quite easy to extend if you know what you're doing. But at the same time, they can also be broken off. So if you are doing that combo where you get the Shadow Eruption and you don't want to switch to Scythe, you can Nightcrow off at any time. You can completely back out of the fight. You can back off again until your Doom of Doom comes off cooldown. Other things that you can do as well, so if you do get into that combo and you find that you're in trouble, you can do things like Nightmare out. Nightmare's Sorc's really gimmicky, awesome little vanish that allows you to completely vanish from sight, and ultimately you can teleport behind somebody. This is one of the beautiful things about Sorc, is the fact that you can literally combo out of things and get away from fights, get into fights, move around. There's no sort of rigid, this must be the combo that you do. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can fight as Sorc, there's a whole bunch of different things you can do. I've definitely covered a lot of the stuff in my videos previously, so it's something that you're probably going to want to have a look at. If you are completely new to the class, there are tons and tons and tons of videos out there for just Sorc guidance in general. Some of the PC players have brought out some incredible guides as well. Definitely worth having a look. Well, before we go on to anything else then, I mean, any questions related to Sorc, anything anyone wants me to go over in terms of Sorc before we go out into Valencia and go and have a look at some stuff? So I'll show you my gear, show you my stamina and stuff. So my gear at the minute with my Kutamon, I've also got the Hellwreck for PvP. Do need the Hellwreck for PvP, the accuracy is huge, 88 accuracy is absolutely phenomenal. You're going to want around 400 accuracy on Sorc until you get over 200 AP, and at that point the AP starts to offset the accuracy, and the accuracy requirement starts to get lower. So in terms of my breath level, it's only 32. That helps with the stamina, it brings the stamina up to 1670, but I've also got some other items as well. So what you'll see is that I've only got 4 critical hit at the minute, and that's because normally I've got my food rotating as well. Just my Serenity meal. That brings me up to 5 cast, 5 crit. So add-ons. Hey Ceremonian, hey dude. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. So a bit awkward to show you what I've got in terms of add-ons. at the minute, but we'll go over some of them on this screen. Where are we? It's not even going to show the. It's not even going to show the add-ons. Why are you not showing add-ons, people? Okay, so Dream of Doom. I've got mana regen on Dream of Doom, and cast speed. I've also got PvP attack, and I think cast speed on Midnight Stinger. Yeah. PvP attack and cast speed. You can see it from the buffs there. I've also got the slow on my Shadow Eruption and cast speed on Shadow Eruption as well. On my Awaken skills, I've only got the 2 at the minute because I'm only level 59. I'm not level 60, so I don't have the ability to have the 3rd add-on. So I've currently got all accuracy and all accuracy and the dot damage. I think it's pain damage on Violation, because I'm running a dot build at the minute. And then I've also got, there you go, you can see it just ticking away on those. I've also got the bleed on turn back slash, and again all accuracy. So there's a big focus on accuracy. Pretty much in terms of your add-ons, there aren't many. You can run things like all cast speed and accuracy, or you can run a full dot build. You literally don't need to run anything specific. What I would say is that if you find that you don't have the accuracy from your gear, picking up accuracy add-ons is definitely going to be a good choice for you. And yeah, it's definitely early. Definitely early in the morning. I mean, I think we've covered pretty much a lot of the stuff. It's all been covered before as well, but like I said, we'll sit around here, we'll answer a couple more questions on Sorc, then we'll go out and have some fun in Valencia. Introduce people to Valencia. Exile never sleeps. Where's everybody? Exile never wakes up. Definitely never wake up. We sleep, we just never wake up. Okay, we're just going to jump in on this fight because why not?
Someone say fight.
Bam! Oh well. Crystals, so let's get away from those guys again. Yeah, so crystal's one other thing that we can touch on before we leave. So crystals, I can show you. I don't know how to took that off. What I have at the minute. I don't even know if all of my crystals are in place at the minute, but we'll have a look. Rosalita. So my main hand at the minute is all AP. What I would say is that once we can get our hands on some of the higher tier crystals, then precision crystals, the accuracy crystals, tend to take place instead of things like AP. You can also get AP and human damage if you do the red battlefield. Get enough tokens saved up and combined, you can get a plus human damage crystal as well. Offhand, in my Kutum, I've got, well, apparently I've lost one of them, but I did have two 10% crit crystals. The crit damage is huge, having the extra crit damage is fantastic in grinding. On my Helric, I just got an AP crystal at the minute. Because we're quite limited in where we can get different stats from gear, my gloves have currently got the critical hit, so 2 Valor crystals that gives me +4 crit. That then lets me use a Serendia Meal and rotate Serendia Meal in to get the last crit and hit that 5 crit. I don't have to worry about cast speed because I've got Zarka, which means that I get 3 cast speed anyway. So I've got a +2 cast speed crystal in there to make up the difference, take me to 5. Normally I would use a food buff instead and only go to 4. But this was just one of the cheapest and easiest ways of doing it. And then a combat experience in the helm, just because I had a spare slot and there's nothing else really worth putting in there. The chest crystals are interesting because they're really cheap and they're special attack evasion. So 20% special attack evasion is huge. This is amazing for when you're getting knocked down, because all things like back attack, down attack, they're all considered special attacks. So having that evasion rate at 20% is great. And then currently I'm just messing around with some knockdown and bound resist in my boots. I'm not a big fan of resistances, so I wouldn't usually run these. But to start with, it's pretty much worth having at the moment because nobody has enough ignore resist. So having an extra 50% resist to knockdown and bound is great. So there's nothing special there in terms of crystals. It tends to be a case of just balancing your attack speed, or your cast speed, sorry, and your crit, along with getting precision crystals as and when you need them. Anything that you can do for extra accuracy is always good. And then being able to pick up things like special attack damage or crit damage is going to help. To be fair, there's no real best skills, it's just normal combo. Normal combo after Grim Reaper. Normal combo. Hey, welcome back, dude. Yeah, Rosa, you can come to BA if you want. My Awakening is the green just because it's so much cheaper to do and the trade-off is 5 AP. So 5 AP is not huge. I actually hit Tet on a 35 stack. I wouldn't advise going for I wouldn't advise going for Tet on a 35 stack at all, but I was doing it for a joke.
You freaking one-tapped it too.
I one-tapped that on a 35 stack. Come on, let's have a fight before I leave the battle arena.
Alright.
Ready when you are.
off me.
Oh, which damage OP? So that goes back to the whole DP versus AP. You tend not to survive combos. If you get caught as a Sorc, you pretty much die. Pretty much dead 100% of the time. Which is one of the hardest classes for us at the minute, which is strange considering they were also one of the easiest classes for us last week. But the damage output is absolutely huge. Let's go again.
Yeah. Oh, I was on it. Nice.
Boom. There we go.
That's how you do your CCs correctly.
I'm so tired today. I'm so tired. This hurts so much. Right, we can go again. Yeah, ready?
Yeah.
Ah, straight into the fucking. And that's why you need to finish your combos. Definitely why you need to finish your combos. We ready?
Yeah.
Let's go. No, I don't trust you.
Where are you?
A million miles away from you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got me. Nice. Yeah, got punished for sitting in my staff.
Easter region. Oh, I'm the wrong person to ask. Come on then, where's Rosa? We'll have a fight with Rosa before we go.
Yeah, the other way.
Oh no, man, I'm so sleeping. Oh, stupid menu. I need to rebind the back button on this controller. combo. Good fight. Whoa. Okay, sorry. Catch up on some chat. Okay, right. Let's go have some fun in Valencia instead. What are we doing? It is 4 more minutes. 4 more minutes. Good job you're here to keep me on track. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we zoned in right in the middle of things. This is not good. It's not good. This is not good. Go on. Give me like a Seraph or something. Just randomly drop. Okay, so we'll stand somewhere reasonably safe, which is hard to do around here. Well, a minute till the code pops up on the screen and we get to give stuff away. Or you get to go and get some free stuff. So we're out in the wonderful world of Valencia. Quite possibly one of my most favourite areas in Black Desert. It's added a huge amount of landmass to the game. Cheers, dude. I'll take a look at this. Good for you, boss. So when you have a compass, it doesn't unlock the map, it shows you where you are in the desert, where you wouldn't necessarily be able to see where you are. So with Valencia, once you actually walk out into the desert, so pretty much all of this area in the middle, including the outskirts of Valencia City, you won't be able to see where you are in your map without the compass. What you'll find is that you tend to you tend to get a feel for where you are in the desert, and you sort of set your own waypoint. So for example, if I was trying to go through Valencia city, so the capital of Valencia, and I was running from all the way over here at Sangrein Bazaar, I'd pretty much orientate myself so that I was just going to run forwards, and I would just run forwards until I hit that spot or close to it.
Coupon time.
Coupon time. Yeah, where are we at? Where are we at? Look at that, seamless, absolutely seamless. So yeah, I was saying, be able to run literally straight across the map. There's no real need for the compass. It's easier if you've got it, but you'll get a feel for things like if you're coming down to Fogans and Crescents, for example, you just hug the canyon wall until you hit the area. It's quite hard to get lost unless you run right into the middle. So guys, there is another coupon code bottom of the screen. Again, you can put that into either the website or the app, Black Desert Plus app. If you haven't already used that, it's how I managed to snipe a lot of my stuff off the marketplace, being able to be at work, including the Kutum today that I managed to pick up, the first one that was sold on the marketplace. Convenient little app, definitely worth having a look at. So people already guessed what the coupon code was going to be and used it already. Wow, well, that's what you get for being smarter than you should be. If you're going to guess at coupons and guess that it's right in bang smack in the middle, then it's going to happen. You're going to end up using different using the coupons ahead of time. It is 24 hours on these guys, so you've only got 24 hours to claim it anyway. If you haven't already done it, make sure that you do that. So just at Fogans at the minute, which is one of the best grinding spots in terms of experience at the minute in Valencia. The beauty about Fogans is that despite the fact it's out in the desert, it doesn't have the desert debuff. This little spot in particular is fantastic for grinding. Predominantly you're looking to get as much trash per hour as you can. Trash drops make up the bulk of your money, or your consistent money. You do also have access to potential Seraph drops in Fogans and things like the Forbidden Scrolls, or the scroll written in ancient language, should I say. And those are similar to ancient relic shards and to your forbidden books, that they're going to allow you to summon bosses and pick up memory fragments. So getting hold of them, definitely worth fans. I'll just finish clearing this pack and then we'll go around to show you where. See, I never knew why there was no debuff for Fogans. Never even thought about the fact that it's in the Oasis. Never even thought about that. All I know is that Fogans has no debuff, therefore it is a beautiful place to grind. That pretty much sums it up, yeah. So, you've got a couple of grind spot choices when it comes to Valencia when you first come out here. Depending on your level, depending on what kind of gear you have, kind of dictates where you can go. So we'll clear these and we'll have a look at the map again. Okay, so when you first start doing the Valencia quest line, you'll automatically run into one of the really good grind spots early on for low AP. And that's down here. You only need 100 AP for Basham's Basin, or Basham's Base. Now, the great thing about this is you can come over here probably at around level sort of 52, 53. And provided that you've got around 100 AP or close to that, you won't have any real issues grinding Basham. You do need to have relatively good DP, so at least sort of plus 15 pry armor. But as long as you got your Exuler accessories, Basham's is going to be a great place to grind. It's one of my favourite places to actually grind 59 to 60, just because it's relatively uncontested and people just don't go there. It's one of the underrated areas. You get quite a bit of Rakaba drops, which are the armor pieces that you'll find out in Valencia, as well as the weapons, Blackstones, and those ancient scroll pieces as well. Some of the other more favourable spots, or where people like to grind up their money when they're out in Valencia, is Naga's, or at the Naga Temple. So it's right next to Sangrain Bazaar. Again, this place is great for the scrolls that you're going to want to do, so that you can start building up memory fragments, and also your Seraph's necklaces. So Seraphs are one of the gold accessories that comes into the game with Valencia, and it's one that's going to last you a long time. It's a cheaper version of the Ogre Ring, essentially. So a duo Ogre Ring is the equivalent of a Seraph's necklace at Tri. Now, duo Ogre Ring will set you back 775 million, whereas if you were to get a Tri-Seraph, apparently you'd be paying 1.1 billion these days. So normally it's a little bit lower, but it gives you another viable alternative to having your Ogre Rings, which are a lot harder to grind. Seraphs drop a lot easier, a lot more frequently. Along with the Seraphs, we got a couple of other accessories that are all considered endgame accessories. So you've now got access to Ring of the Crescent Guardian. These drop at the Crescent Shrine. You've also got access to the Basilisk Belt, and that drops at Basilisk Dens. And then you've also got your earrings that you won't be able to see at the minute, because I don't think anybody's sold any. They haven't, and that's the Tungrad earrings, but that's because people aren't grinding the zones that you need to grind to get them. So Nagas are going to drop the Seraph's Neck. The only problem with Nagas is that despite the fact that it's close to Sangrain Bazaar, it's technically classed as the desert, so you are going to have the desert debuff. It's going to make it a bit of a pain. It means that you're going to have to hold on to your purified water and your Star Anise tea as well. So Star Anise tea is used to get rid of the debuff during the night time, and purified water is used to get rid of the debuff during the daytime. They can both be bought from the vendor at Sangrain Bazaar, or they can be crafted through processing. So purified water is quite literally through heating the water to get purified water, and you add another step to it to get the Star Anise tea, and it's from a node. There's a node up here somewhere around Garhaz that gives you the Star Anise that you need to then make into the tea. Oh, poor Hex. Changes one number on his codes and now he's going to get abused for the rest of his life. That's just unlucky. Oh, sorry, the baby. Baby needs some looking after as well. So yeah, the Star Anise, sorry, it's up here by Shack 2. So it's just to the left up here. I haven't bothered picking up the nodes at the minute because I tend to just buy it from the vendor. Buy it from the vendor, it's really easy to pick it up. Really cheap, make sure that you stock up on it. Little tip for you though is if you've got access to maids, so if you've got any transaction maids, so I've got 2, you can just store it in your central marketplace so you're not having to carry it around. Make sure that you've always got a stock of potions, purified water, Star Anise tea in your central marketplace, so at a push you can grab it. Especially when you start to head on out to the desert zones. So although Nagas is close to Sangre and it's still considered the desert, you have got up here Garhaz, which isn't considered desert, so you can grind that without the need for removing the debuff. Bashams isn't the desert, so again you can grind that without needing the debuff, but as soon as you start to do things like Nagas, or you come down here and you start doing the Fogans areas or Crescent, so the Crescent Shrine here for the Crescent Rings, you're definitely going to need to be stocking up on the debuff, or alternatively, to help minimize how often you're going to need to cleanse the debuff, you can grab things like the Fox Pet or the Desert Ghillie Suit. Those things alone are going to make life a little bit easier for you. When you first come out here as well, if you haven't already got this, there's a quest at Sangre Bazaar, and over here at the Stable Keeper, you're going to be able to pick yourself up a camel. Now camels, unlike your horses, aren't going to drain stamina as quickly when it comes to being out in the desert, and you're definitely going to want to make sure that you have a camel, because running around on your horse out in the desert is just an absolute nightmare. You'll find that your horse runs out of stamina and you end up in the middle of the desert. And that was a gatekeeper. Don't stand too close to the gatekeepers. No, code shouldn't be working with Xbox, should only be a PS4 code. So yep, you're going to want a camel. What I tend to do in terms of the camel as well, which for some reason it's not got it on it anymore. It did have it on before, it had all of my drops. But when I'm grinding somewhere like Fogans, is I'll put the main trash loot on it, so in this case it's the helmet shards. And basically, as long as you take them off your camel and then put them back on as a whole stack, you can stack them almost infinitely. And it's going to mean that you don't need to worry about your carry weight on your character. Just a little tip for when you're grinding out and about and you don't want to have to run back. Before you do head out to the desert though, make sure that you are fully repaired, because there is nowhere to go unless you're negative karma. And if you're negative karma, you are going to be able to go to a little sort of bandit town over here. It's just out of the map because I haven't been here yet, but you are going to be able to be there. Okay, back in a second. So the vendor that does the Star Anise tea is just the general vendor at Sangre Bazaar. It's the ones that you'll get your potions from and everything as well. Sorry, I didn't want to unmute until the little man had settled on my knee. Wanted to keep it muted a little bit so that you weren't subject to crying. The last thing I wanted was for you guys to have to listen to some crying. But yeah, so let me look through the chat and have a quick look at things. So Node Empire videos I will be carrying on with, or more like I'll be restarting it from scratch. I'll be restarting Node Empire from scratch because things are a little bit different on the PS4 side of things. But I also know a lot more about the Xbox side of things now and how the economy is working on Xbox. It's a he, not a she. So yeah, the Star Anise vendor is literally the general vendor. It's around sort of this area of Sangrein Bazaar. Really easy to find. I can try and get you the link in a second. So the Sorc build video is, let's get you a link for it. I can probably get you, there's a couple of them, there's the old and the new, there's the Awakening and there's the pre-Awakening. There we go. No worries, dude. Hopefully that helps. So has anybody got any questions, Sorc related questions, anything you want me to revisit or go over? Yeah, I'll be doing an updated guide to the Worker Empire. It's definitely something that's on my to-do list. Just the last couple of weeks have been absolutely hectic with this little guy. So it's on my to-do list. It's something that's coming over the next couple of weeks. I'm waiting for the market to settle down a bit on PS4 before I go any further with the guide in terms of what nodes should be set up. Also, with Imperial Delivery not being there on the PS4, it means that a lot of the current setup is exactly the same as the video was, and it's pretty much just stockpiling and hoarding of items for the time being. So ideally, in terms of accessories, at the minute you want to look for, if you've already got full try on your arm and you've got full try on your weapons, you want to be looking at pushing the weapons to Tet. You want Tet Awakening, you want your Tet Main Hand, your Tet Zarka, and a Tricutum as quickly as you can. Up until that point, you pretty much just want to stick with the Asula accessories. Then if you're looking at Sorc specific, you want to pick up either 1 or 2 tri-red coral earrings. If you only pick up 1 tri-red coral, you want to get a tri-witch's earring. You want to pick up a tri-crescent ring, or make a tri-crescent ring. You don't need to make a second one, and the reason for that is that you're going to have one once you hit level 61, once the Kaposha accessories are added to the game. You then want to either get a basilisk belt to try, or at least duo, but that's going to be one of the more expensive ones for you to do and one of the harder ones for you to grind. The last thing that you want to have a look at is getting a duo or a tri-ogre's ring or a tri-seraph's necklace. Depending on how the pricing works on PS4 and how things are changing, currently ogre rings are probably rarer but cheaper way of getting. It's easier to get a duo ogre ring than it is to get a tri-seraph, unless obviously you're able to grind the seraphs yourself. But if you're all buying them from the marketplaces, you're probably going to actually be better off buying ogre rings and getting really lucky on it. But again, it's enhancing, so you got to take it with a pinch of salt. You could just end up throwing away a ton of money. But accessories should really be the last thing that you look for. You shouldn't really be hitting up accessories until you've got your main hand to Tet, your awakening to Tet. You want to make sure that you've got a Zarka main hand. Your awakening is not a big deal. You can use the blue or the green, but again, Dandy's going to be coming soon as well, so you're going to want to save money for that, unless you get lucky with drops all the time. Accessories are always the last thing on your list. You don't really need to push them. They're a huge money sink, and you will fail more than you'll succeed, so I wouldn't rush to get any kind of accessories sorted. A lot of the accuracy that you need on Sorc as well, you'll get 88 from your Helric Talisman at Tri, you'll get 24 from a Tri-Red Coral Earring, you'll get accuracy from your Beg's Gloves, you'll get accuracy from your Zarka main hand once it gets to Tet as well. Once we get access to extra crystals, things like Gem Vipers as well, once Camasylvia hits, accuracy becomes a lot easier to get hold of. I wouldn't really use things like the Ancient Sealed set for the accuracy. It's just not a great set. I mean, if you really want to push accuracy, or you're struggling, you can look at the Tree Spirit belts instead of Basilisk belt. It's really high accuracy. It just doesn't have the same kind of AP on that. But that's to be expected. There's always a trade-off with stats, so it's not always the same. But yeah, I mean, tree belts for the longest time were the go-to for Sorcs, along with red coral earrings. What I would say though is if you're looking at buying red coral earrings and you're looking at making the accuracy ones, I would hold off and give it a week or 2 after the first conquest, because once the first conquest happens and a guild takes Calcium, they'll have an increased drop chance on all the Calcium regions, and it includes pirates, so you'll see a lot more of them available on the marketplace. There's already been a ton of them though that have dropped the price a little bit, and that's because of those RNG accessory, so you can pick up from the blacksmith to try and roll for accessories. Still there, Alorian? Did you go to sleep? Any more questions? I'll upload the first section of the stream as well, where I went over things like skills, combos and things, just so you can have a look at them. I will redo a lot of the combo stuff as well. Up until boss armor for PvP, Greenhill Heave is one size fits all. Yeah, I mean, Greenhill Heave is pretty much a one size fits all. I went full Greenhill just because at the time we were given, or you get a plus 13 helm for doing the Medea quest, or the Medea quest chain, and that was from day one basically. So because I picked that up, it just seemed logical to go all in on Grunel. Hey Splice. 60 hopefully next week, depending on time. I use Grim Reaper, but it's not a go-to skill for me because I find that I get caught out a lot when I'm using it. I take it you mean Grim Reaper's Judgment. Helric you're going to want for PvP. Dewberry is decent for PvE until you get Kutum. Once you've got Kutum, it drops off considerably. It comes back again once you get to much higher AP brackets. Once Nuva is in the game and starts to be considered along the lines of the best AP offhand, Dewberry holds its own against it as well, and it's actually very comparable damage, so it might be worth holding the Dewberry. It depends if you need the money. If you need the money at the minute, then it could be worth selling. You don't need to push accuracy in PvE, providing that you're leveling. Obviously, if you're a lower level, then having accuracy is going to help. Yeah, gotta use the Grim Reaper's buff. Grim Reaper's buff OP. Not got Shadow Ignition, and you know we haven't. Stop taunting me with it. You know we've got no Shadow Ignition at the minute, and it's not fair. So we are still missing some of our toolkit, and Splice will attest to it. Once we get Rabum, Sorc becomes a whole different beast. Sorc is incredible once we've got our full toolkit as well. We're in a good place with Awakening, but we're in a much better place once we've got Rabums. So fingers crossed within the next 4 to 6 weeks I'd like to see Rabums added to the game, round out the toolkit for a lot of the classes, and start to enjoy everything that the classes have to offer instead of just fractured bits. Put my gear back up on the screen for you guys while I'm sat here. There was a ton of stuff I wanted to go over, but I didn't intend on having a small child falling asleep on me at the same time. That, and it's now 3:30 in the morning and I'm practically dead. I will be getting some sleep soon. If we've got no more questions, I'm gonna give it another 5-10 minutes before I go there. 56 to 60 Bashams up until 57. From 57 to 60 you should go back and do all of the quests. The general quests that give the yellow experience orb from all around Velia, Calphion and everything. That'll get you from 57 to 59 in about 5 to 6 hours if you just hammer those quests out. Takes no time at all to do it. And then from 59 to 60, depending on your gear, either go back to Bashams or do Fogans or Nagas. We don't have Marnie Stones in the game at the minute, so they're not as good as they will be, but they're still the best options for your overall sort of experience. I mean, running full experience buffs and using elixirs, you're probably looking at around 4, 5, 6% an hour from 59 to 60, so it's decent experience. Rabums give us protected skill, or give us a protected engage that we don't currently have. So once we get Rabums and we get Shadow Ignition, it changes the way that we can engage. We can be a lot more aggressive. We don't have to play the neutral game anywhere near as much. We can trade with a lot of people. The protected gap closing that it provides us just means that, unlike when I was showing you the combo before that was things like Rushing Crow in forwards and Midnight Stinger forwards, all of those carry an inherent risk being unprotected. Having a protected forward engage. It means we can close gaps a lot safer. It allows us to finish combos a lot quicker. Yeah, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. Sorc's one of those classes that benefits massively from just a single little tweak. It's also one of the reasons why people hate Sorc so much. We've got a whole lot of toolkit. You've just got to learn how to do it all. Doing 5% an hour without any experience buffs. That's pretty damn good then. Imagine 5% without any experience buffs, that's really good. Although there is a 24/7 experience buff going on at the minute. Staying 49 to farm Asula accessories, I just wouldn't bother. Yeah, a lot of people are PvP happy, but it's also part of the game. On the grand scheme of things, the whole dying when you're out grinding doesn't happen that much unless you roam into somebody's grind spot. If you just roam into people's grind spots, they're going to kill you. But most people will have left Medaya now and be heading out towards Valencia, so grinding out your Asula is really easy to do. And to be fair, it's quicker to grind it out in the weekends from things like Fogans and stuff anyway, if you've got the gear to do it. Asula's a lot easier to get now than it was when we went through it a couple of weeks ago, because you've got the weakened versions as well. Yeah, it definitely rarely happens. It's nowhere near as bad as people seem to think it is. Unless you're one of the people who gets incredibly unlucky, or you're just incredibly antagonistic and go looking for fights and abusing people. My Kutum, I think I used the yellow blackstones to get it plus 12, and then I'd hit it on started off on 16 stacks. I just used Devour to get rid of some plus 15s I had in the bank, and used the 16 stacks. I got really lucky, and then actually, I think it was second time pry on a 16, or it was an 18. Then I hit duo first time on a 20, and then I hit try first time on a 20 as well, which was incredible. Thank you for looking at the guides, watching the guys, dude. So the reason I do them, without people watching them, there would be no reason for me to keep making them. Because you're a wizard at 54, you're going to struggle. Once you hit 56 and you get Awakening, class completely changes. I would say get to 56 as quick as you can, make that your focus. Get into 56 and get an Awakening. Worry about your gear a little bit later. You can get to 56 with next to no gear. It doesn't take a lot to do. Just follow the quest lines, pick up all the quest gear. Once you get to 55, you can then do the Abyssal or the Black Abyssal weapon quest chain. That's going to give you a really good weapon. Should be able to show you the Sorc version of it. And that's going to be huge for you until you can get a decent weapon yourself. So the Black Abyssal weapon, you'll be able to get that for the Sorc as well. For Wizard as well, sorry. If the quest chest, you mean the Roaring Magical, as long as it's upgraded all the way up until Roaring, I wouldn't replace it until you've got your helm, gloves and boots to try. The chest is an absolutely great chest. When it comes to DKs and mooses, you just need to understand how they move. So mooses are quite easy to deal with if you keep your distance and just don't let them land stub arrow. Mooses have a much harder time landing CC on a Sorc than a Sorc does landing Dream of Doom or Shadow Eruption on a Moosa. We have a lot more ability to counter them. Just don't be aggressive. Mooses will beat you if you chase them. If you chase a Moosa down, they will beat you 9 times out of 10 because they fight so much better on the back foot. When it comes to DKs are really predictable. So DKs can't teleport the same way that Sorcs can. They can't move the same way that Sorcs can. Use your lateral, your side to side movement. Make sure that you're looking for gaps to land Storm and Crow over them. And get the knockdowns that way, and just make sure that once you land a combo or once you land a CC that you finish it with a full combo. No, PS4 version did not give a free Liberto to 56s. So yeah, it's a case of making sure that you land your CC and capitalize on it. The same can be said for Moosa, but if you're chasing a Moosa, they will almost always win because they will defensively outplay you. Didn't say DKs were bad. I said they can't move like Sorcs can. Ranger is not one of the worst classes. It's just not. The problem with Ranger is that pre-awakening, they literally just spam shotgun and kill everything. Post-awakening, or once you have your awakening, it changes how they have to fight, and they have to be a lot better at the class. It does drop off a little bit, so Ranger goes through this really strong phase pre-awakening. Awakening comes out and the gear levels start to increase and it drops off a little bit because it can't just burst people down and you have to learn to combo properly. But then once you get to the higher tiers of gear again and your AP starts to get up there to the higher values again, they become deadly once again, just like they were pre-awakened. It's a class that if you stick with it and learn the class and learn how to play and utilize both your pre and post awakened skills, you'll do fine. People just tend not to like the fact that the class drops off, or feels like it drops off a cliff after awakening. It doesn't play like a range class anymore. It's a little bit strange. Sorcs can outmaneuver ninjas. Sorcs have better movement than ninjas. Especially on console. Ninjas don't play that great on controller. For the similar reasons to why Sorc struggles at certain times. Not being able to 180 the camera as quickly as you'd like to, like you can when you're using a mouse. That massively impacts our initiation and engages, and it also affects repositioning like it does for Ninja. You don't need to see the movements through the blur. All you need to do is understand how they move, and they move in straight lines. Both classes move in straight lines. DKs teleport from point A to point B. Learn where point B is. Moosa's just a pain. Moosa's just chase forwards, backwards, more often than not. So the easiest way to deal with Moosas is to bait them into fights. Use your iframes. If they're coming forwards and you iframe backwards or sideways and manage to land Shadow Eruption, it's GG. I haven't had any issue with animations, but it's a lot of it I think is to do with the SSD as well and using the Pro. It means I haven't had any major issues with it, but I know that the issues are there, and it does tend to rear its ugly head during sieges. Sieges and Node Wars. Well, Node Wars because we haven't had sieges yet, but anyway, where there's a lot of people, I start to drop off on animations, and that's because the load on the rendering's just not up to it for the console. But then again, it wasn't up to it for PCs either. You needed an incredibly good PC early on. Yeah, landing shadow clone is not fun. Doing block jump grab as well on console is just a pain. But I mean, there will always be people that pick up the classes and excel at them. It's one of those classes that are worth sticking with. But Sorc's renowned for having some of the highest mobility, or highest, not necessarily mobility, but highest movement opportunities. So being able to literally micro any direction that you want to is huge. You could potentially enjoy LAN. It depends what kind of class you like. I mean, LAN plays similar to Awakened Ranger anyway. I say similar. You have to learn to combo as well. Okay, 5 more minutes, guys, and then I'm gonna go and put this little man to bed and follow myself as well. Yes, minus 7% on Shadow Eruption is really worth it. You'll know it's really worth it when you're fighting somebody and you clip them with Shadow Eruption and it doesn't give them the knock up. How much money have I spent on this game? Pass. Pass. Probably nowhere near as much as you think, but probably more than I should. So it's worth noting that the reason that we've been having such an easy time with gear is these. Oh, where are they? You've probably seen them popping up all over the time. So if you look at it now, there's 4 of these costumes on the marketplace. They are literally flooded. There's been 885 of these listed in the last 48 hours. These are what we've been using to get cronstones that have made enhancing easier. I mean, if you look at the materials that I've got in my bank as well, you can see that everything that I've been doing has sort of been planned to get to this point. At the point where the memory fragments on the server hit 2 million, I sold 1,300 memory fragments for 2 million a pop. So I made a lot of money, and then I used that money to gather my materials that I needed to enhance my gear. Oh, I'm definitely over that amount. Definitely over that amount. Since launch on PC, I could probably buy a car. Breaking down pearl costumes became worth it. So it became worth it. Let's show you on the pearl shop when they did this update. So if you want cronstones at the minute, you're talking 79 million. And it's the Sanguine Petal costume. So for 79 million, you actually get, if you look at the cronstone numbers, it adds up to I think 200 and a little over 200 cronstones. Now, cron stones are worth 2 million a piece, so you're getting 400 million's worth of cron stones for 79 million. I wouldn't ever get reliant on cron stones, but it allowed us to do some more attempts than we normally would have done on gear. It's also why you've seen those stupid amount of pen attempts on random gear. Relic shards, it's not worth buying to do them to sell memory fragments, but it is worth getting them if you need memory fragments. So on average, a relic shard scroll yields around 4.7 memory fragments per run, per 5 relics technically. So that plus the hunter seals, and obviously the trash that you get from them as well means that they are worth getting or buying them to run them, or using the lawn seals that we're getting from the event. 35 seals for an ancient relic crystal instead of 50 for a scroll written in ancient language. So both the relics and the scrolls give roughly the same amount of memory fragments. They're just not they're just quicker to do the ancient language scrolls. They do average slightly higher, but not significant enough. Best way to make money currently is to grind like crazy. So if you've got the gear for it, grinding things like Nagas, Fogans, Garhas, Crescents, any one of those spots, Basilisks, anything that you can grind to a decent level. So when you're looking at evaluating a grind spot, what you want to look at is roughly how much trash loot. So that's things like these helmets that you get in an hour. Don't focus on the rare drops or anything like that. What you want to focus on is how much of this trash you get, because the higher this value is, the more stable your income is. And no, cronstones aren't only useful for accessories. Cronstones stop your gear from downgrading when you enhance them. So for example, when going for Tet on my awakening weapon, it cost me 38 cronstones per attempt, and it meant that I didn't, or I wouldn't have, if I didn't get it on the first time, it wouldn't have downgraded if I'd have failed. So it basically allows you to constantly attempt Tet for as long as you've got cronstones to do it, without having to downgrade then re-upgrade. It means you don't have to use as many fail stacks, you don't have to mess around trying to build those stacks, and you don't need the increased materials from having to go from duo back to try before going for Tet. Like I said, I'm not a huge advocate on cronstones. I would never advise people to spend money on costumes to break the costumes. However, using in-game silver to buy the costumes for cronstones, you get way more value for money. Like I said, a costume that's currently 79 million gives you 400 million's worth of cronstones. And if you were to break that down, it could potentially save you, well, let's say you got six cron attempts at Tet. So that's 6 sharps that you now need to use for those Tet attempts. If you weren't going to use those crons, you might then end up having to go back from duo to try 6 times as well, meaning you'll need 12 sharps instead of 6 sharps. You could also end up going to pry and need to go back to duo. So in extreme circumstances, you could end up using 30 or 40 sharps. Or you could spend the 79 million on the costume, shard it for the cronstones, and use the cronstones to save your enhancing. It's only really worth it on lower cost items, because the amount of cronstones you need varies and it changes based off the item's value. So here's a prime example. So both of these weapons are Tet. Now the Scythe of Seduction was a green base item, whereas the Zarka is a boss grade item. So both of these, if I was to go for Penon, the boss grade item would cost me 531 cronstones, which is huge. The Scythe though would only cost me 69. That effectively means that I can go for Pen on this Scythe for a fraction of the cost of anything else, and if it does fail, it doesn't downgrade. So there are options. That being said though, again, cronstones are a crutch. You really need to get comfortable with failing the enhancing in this game, otherwise you're going to have a real rough time when you do start failing and you're not using cronstones. Tet Awaken first and then your Zarki, yeah. Tet Awakening weapon, then main hand weapon, then offhand. That's the route we go on that one. Pretty much put the baby to sleep. Put the baby to sleep. So 70 to 80 fail stacks, you just fail. You just fail, fail and fail. Fail, fail and fail. Anyway guys, I've managed to make it for the full 2 hours. I didn't think I was going to, but I did. As always, make sure you're checking out that channel. Make sure you're redeeming that code within the next 48 hours as well. Or 24 hours, sorry, not 48. It was a bit of a slip. So next 24 hours, make sure you're redeeming that code if you haven't done already. Check out the channel, there's a lot of Sorc content on there and there's a whole lot of content coming soon. Thanks for watching guys.